There's a strange kind of magic that happens when a woman reaches a certain age. Somewhere around 45 or 50, something shifts. You stop needing to impress people, and instead, you start showing up as yourself. No masks, no games, no pretending. And the world, especially men, begins to respond in ways you never expected. You might not be chasing attention, but somehow, you've never been more captivating. Today we're going to talk about something that doesn't get said enough. How older women, yes, women like you, can be unforgettable, not because they're trying to be, but because of who they've become. This isn't about being younger, sexier, or fitting into anyone's expectations. This is about the quiet power you've earned through experience, the kind that makes the right men take notice and never forget. In this video, we're going to break down 4 things, 4 behaviors, really, that emotionally mature men find magnetic in older women. These aren't tips from a magazine. They're real patterns backed by psychology, real-life stories, and truth you've probably lived through yourself. So if you've ever felt overlooked, tired of the games, or wondered whether true connection is still possible at this stage of life, stay with me. Because the answer is yes, and it starts with showing up fully as you. Behavior number 1. Living a full life and letting him into it. Gradually. Let me tell you something that changed the way I think about attraction, especially for women over 50. It's the difference between inviting someone into your life versus building your life around them. Those 2 choices feel small in the moment, but over time, they shape everything. Your peace, your power, and your presence. I want to tell you about Michelle. She's 52, lives in Portland, and when I met her, she said something I'll never forget. When I meet someone new, I don't clear my schedule. I check if they can fit into my already full life. Now, Michelle isn't arrogant or closed off. She's warm, funny, deeply caring. But she's also intentional. Her calendar isn't packed because she's trying to stay busy. It's full because she's living. Yoga on Wednesdays, coffee dates with friends on Thursdays, weekend hikes, monthly book club. And when she started dating again after her divorce, she didn't stop any of that. She didn't rearrange her world just because someone new showed up. And you know what? That made her magnetic. Because here's the truth. Emotionally mature men, especially those over 40 or 50, aren't looking for someone to rescue. They're not impressed by someone who waits around to be chosen. They're drawn to women who have something going on, who value their own time, and who offer their presence, not their dependence. A man doesn't fall in love with a woman who abandons herself to accommodate him. He falls for the one who invites him into a life that already has purpose, rhythm, and joy. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. But I've been single a while. I want to make time for someone. That's beautiful, and yes, relationships require time and energy. But here's the secret. When you're already living fully, you're not waiting for someone to complete you. You're inviting someone to complement you. That difference is everything. Think of it this way. A full life doesn't mean you're too busy for love. It means love has a healthy place to land. It means you're not attaching your identity to whether someone texts you back. You're not spiraling if a date gets canceled. Because your sense of joy isn't on hold. You're still going to your Friday night dinner with friends. You're still booking that trip you said you'd take. You're still dancing in your living room when your favorite song comes on, because that's who you are. And you know what that does to a man who's used to being the center of someone's attention by default. It disarms him. It intrigues him. And more importantly, it earns his respect. Not because you're playing hard to get, but because you're already full, and love, to you, is an addition, not an escape. Let's talk psychology for a second. A study from the University of Michigan followed more than 700 couples over a decade. The research found that men reported the highest levels of attraction and satisfaction when their partner had independent interests, hobbies, and friendships. In other words, when her life didn't revolve around him, he felt more desire, more respect, and yes, more commitment. That's the paradox no one talks about. The more you cling, the more someone pulls away. The more you release, the more they lean in. But this isn't just about him. It's about you. It's about how you feel when you wake up in the morning. Do you have things that make you excited, aside from the possibility of romance? Are you nourishing your mind, your body, your creativity? Are you saying yes to yourself more often than you're saying yes out of guilt or fear? Because when your life is rich with meaning, even before anyone enters it, that's when love doesn't feel like a lifeline. It feels like a celebration. So if you take nothing else from this section, take this. You are not a placeholder waiting to be upgraded by love. You are a whole world already in motion. And when someone sees that, they don't want to replace it. They want to join it. You don't need to shrink to make room for someone. Let them rise to meet you where you already are. Now, take a breath. Reflect on your own life for a moment. Is there something you stopped doing because you were hoping love would fill that space? Maybe today's the day you take it back. Because a full life is the most attractive thing you can wear, and no one can take that away from you. Behavior number 2. Flirting without pressure. Let's get one thing straight. Flirting isn't just for 20-somethings in crowded bars, and it definitely isn't about wearing the tightest dress or knowing all the right one-liners. For women who've lived, loved, and learned, flirting is no longer a performance. It's a presence. It's not about being seductive. It's about being alive in the moment. There's something powerful about a woman who knows how to share her energy, just a little, without making it feel like a transaction. You know the kind I'm talking about. She doesn't chase. She doesn't beg for attention. She simply looks at you, smiles in a way that says, "I see you," and then goes right back to her life. That kind of energy? It's electric. Take Tanya, for example. She's 55 and works in marketing. A few months ago, she told me about a conversation she had on a first date. The guy asked, "So what do you do for a living?" And without missing a beat, she smiled and said, "I keep people curious. If you make it to date number 2, I'll tell you more." No wink. No giggle, just confidence wrapped in warmth. And it worked, not because it was clever, but because it was effortless, lighthearted, playful, free. That's the kind of flirting that draws men in, not because they feel tested, but because they feel seen and engaged. Now let's talk about why this works, especially for women over 45. At this stage in life, you've likely let go of a lot of pressure. You're not flirting to get married next week. You're not trying to lock someone down. You're connecting because you want to connect, not because you need to. And believe me, men can feel that difference instantly. Low-pressure flirtation is like oxygen to emotionally mature men. They've been through the highs and lows. They've dealt with drama, intensity, insecurity, and when they meet someone who can make eye contact, give a sincere compliment, maybe tease them just a little without making it heavy, it's like a breath of fresh air. A quick note here. Flirting doesn't have to be verbal. Sometimes it's the way you brush your hair off your shoulder, or the way you raise your eyebrow just slightly when you're intrigued. It can be a text message that ends with just enough mystery to spark curiosity. Or a light touch on the arm during a good laugh. You don't need to try to be sexy. You already are, in the way only a woman with life experience can be. Because you're not pretending. You're not overthinking. You're just there, present, honest, enjoying the moment without trying to control it. And when a man senses that you're not trying to sell yourself to him, but instead inviting him into a moment that already feels good? He'll want more of that, not out of obligation, but out of genuine desire. There's actual research that backs this up. A study from the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships found that flirtation that is light, respectful, and responsive, not forced or overly sexual, is what creates the strongest feelings of connection in both short-term and long-term relationships. In short, the goal of flirting isn't to get someone, it's to open the door to playfulness and chemistry. Now, if you're someone who hasn't flirted in a while, or who thinks, "That's just not me anymore," let me offer this. Flirting at our age doesn't have to look like it did when we were younger. It's evolved, just like we have. And that's a good thing. It's not about impressing anyone. It's about expressing yourself, without fear, without pressure, and with a little sparkle in your eye. So, next time you're having a conversation, try this. Pause for just half a second longer than usual before responding. Let your smile linger just a bit. Ask a question that's slightly unexpected, like, what's something you're secretly really proud of? That kind of question, it opens up a different kind of dialogue. A deeper one. And the best part? You're not doing it to manipulate. You're doing it because you're curious. And curiosity, that's one of the most attractive traits in the world. So, let's let go of the idea that flirting is something we grow out of. The truth is, we grow into it. We get better at it. Because now, we know what feels good, not just to them, but to us. Stay playful. Stay light. Stay curious. That energy? It doesn't chase. It attracts. Behavior number 3. Speaking with calm, direct confidence. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you said exactly what you wanted, without softening it, apologizing for it, or wrapping it up in 100 disclaimers? If you're like most women over 45, you've probably spent a good chunk of your life choosing your words carefully. You've learned how to read a room, how to keep the peace, how to not come on too strong. And while that skill has its place, there's a quiet kind of power that comes from speaking directly, without raising your voice and without backing down. That's what emotionally mature men find magnetic. I'm not talking about being loud. I'm not talking about dominating a conversation or trying to prove something. I'm talking about calm, grounded confidence, the kind that shows up when a woman knows who she is, what she values, and what she simply doesn't entertain anymore. Take Lisa, 48. She went on a couple of dates with a man who kept canceling at the last minute. He was charming, yes, but inconsistent. Old Lisa might have waited, wondered, overanalyzed every text. But this version of Lisa? She just sent one message. "You seem like a great guy, but consistency matters to me. If this isn't a fit, no hard feelings." That was it. No drama, no emotional monologue, no question marks, just clarity. And guess what? He called the next day, apologized, asked for another chance. Why? Because she was direct but calm. She didn't beg. She didn't scold. She just stated her standard and moved on. And that is powerful. Psychologists call this non-performative confidence, the kind that doesn't seek approval, but naturally earns respect. A study out of Stanford found that men responded more strongly, emotionally and neurologically, to women who communicated with calm certainty, rather than those who performed or over-explained. Why? Because that kind of confidence makes a man feel safe, not controlled, not tested, but grounded, and in a world full of noise, that stillness is unforgettable. So what does this look like in everyday life? It's saying, "I'm not into texting games" when someone goes silent for 3 days. It's saying, "I'm looking for something intentional," without worrying if that scares him off. It's saying, "I value honesty, even if it's uncomfortable," and meaning it. It's showing that you are emotionally available, but not emotionally dependent. And yes, this takes practice. especially if you were raised to be accommodating, to put everyone else's comfort first. But every time you choose to speak from that place of calm clarity, something shifts, not just in the way others respond, but in the way you feel in your own skin. Let me give you a personal example. A woman I coached, her name's Yvonne, 61, spent most of her life avoiding confrontation. She told me, if someone hurt me, I'd stay quiet, hoping they'd just realize. But one day, after a conversation with a man who'd been stringing her along for months, she paused, took a breath, and said, "I'm not confused about what I want. I just don't think you're ready for it. And that's okay." That was the first time she said something like that. She said her hands were shaking, but afterward, she felt calm. Free. Because when you speak from truth, not fear, something inside you aligns. So here's my invitation to you. Practice being clear. Not cold, not defensive, just clear. You can be warm and honest. You can be soft and strong. And the kind of man who's worth your time? He'll lean in when you speak like that. He'll respect your words. Not because you demanded it, but because you made him feel something rare. Certainty. Because at the end of the day, confidence isn't about volume. It's about energy. And the energy of a woman who knows what she stands for? That's the kind of thing that lingers long after the conversation ends. So don't shrink. Don't soften yourself to fit into someone else's uncertainty. Say what you mean. Say it gently. And then let your presence do the rest. Behavior number 4. Expressing healthy standards without apology. Let's be honest. For a long time, many of us were taught that having standards made us difficult. That saying no made us rude. That setting boundaries meant we were pushing people away. And so we learned how to shrink, how to make things easier for everyone but ourselves. But here's the truth you may have forgotten, or maybe you're just now starting to remember. Your standards don't make you hard to love. They show someone how to love you right. Having standards doesn't mean making demands. It means being clear on what you will and won't accept, and standing by it, even if it means walking away. Let me tell you about Sandra. She was 49 when she met someone new. Charming, handsome, emotionally available on the surface. But by the second date, things started to feel murky. Lots of vague talk, unclear intentions. So when he asked where she saw things going, she didn't hesitate. She looked him in the eye and said, "I'm not into situationships. I date with intention. I'm not in a rush, but I don't entertain confusion." She didn't raise her voice. She didn't justify herself. She didn't try to predict how he'd react. She just said it, and let the silence do what it needed to do. And do you know what he told her months later? That sentence stuck with him. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was unapologetically honest. That's what men remember. Not the woman who tried to please them, not the one who bent over backwards to be agreeable. They remember the woman who knew what she wanted and wasn't afraid to say it. With kindness, yes, but also with conviction. There's a line I use often with my clients, and I want you to hear it today. Men don't respect what you hope for. They respect what you require. And again, this isn't about being rigid or controlling. This is about emotional clarity. The kind that says, "I know my worth, and I don't need to convince anyone of it." A study from the Gottman Institute, which has done decades of research on relationships, found that when women clearly communicated their boundaries and expectations early on, their relationships were 40% more likely to lead to long-term commitment. Why? Because clarity invites trust. It eliminates the guessing games that cause disconnection. Here's something else to remember. When you express your standards early, you save both people time. You allow the wrong ones to walk away without resentment, and you allow the right ones to step up and meet you where you are, not where you've lowered yourself to be. So how do you start doing this if it feels unfamiliar? Start small. If a conversation feels dismissive, say, "That didn't sit well with me." If someone cancels last minute, say, "I value follow-through." If someone keeps things vague, say, "I prefer clarity." If you're unsure, I respect that, but I don't stay in gray areas. And if someone tries to guilt you for having standards, that's not a red flag, that's a stop sign. You've earned the right, through experience, through heartbreak, through growth, to no longer explain yourself to people who aren't ready to meet you at your level. Your boundaries are not walls. They are doors, with locks, with keys, with discernment. They don't keep love out. They keep chaos out. And if someone is worthy of entering, they won't be offended by the door. They'll be grateful you know how to protect your peace. So stop apologizing for having a full heart and clear eyes. Stop second-guessing yourself just to be liked. Because the right man, the kind who's emotionally mature and relationship-ready, isn't looking for someone who lets things slide. He's looking for someone who knows how to say, "This is what I need. Can you meet me here?" And when you can say that with grace and strength, you become unforgettable. Behavior number 5. Being grounded in who you are and loving that woman deeply. There's something undeniably powerful about a woman who isn't just confident, but grounded. Who knows herself, not just because she's read the books or gone to therapy or journaled her thoughts, but because she's lived through storms and chosen to grow roots instead of walls. This kind of woman doesn't pretend she's got it all together. She doesn't need to, because her strength isn't in the performance. It's in the peace she's made with herself. Maybe this resonates with you. Maybe you've spent years trying to prove yourself, to be desirable, to be chosen, to be enough. But what if I told you, you already are? What if the version of you that doesn't chase, doesn't compare, doesn't hustle for love, is actually the most attractive version of all? There's a quiet magnetism in self-acceptance. When a woman walks into a room and she's not competing, not shrinking, not seeking permission, people feel it. Men feel it. They can't quite name it, but they're drawn to it like gravity. Let me be clear. This doesn't mean you've stopped wanting connection. It means you no longer betray yourself just to get it. You can flirt, you can desire, you can love with your whole heart, and still stay centered. That's the difference between attraction that fades and presence that lingers. I spoke with a woman recently. Her name's Joyce, 62, twice divorced. She said, "I spent so many years wondering if I was lovable, and then I realized the question was never whether I was lovable. It was whether I loved me." That hit me, because when you treat yourself with the same reverence you used to give away so easily to others, something clicks. You stop negotiating your value. You stop waiting for outside confirmation. You wake up, look in the mirror, and say, "She's still here. She's still beautiful. She's still worthy." And guess what happens when you do that? You stop settling. Not out of bitterness, but because your soul no longer tolerates being somewhere it doesn't belong. So this final behavior, if we can even call it that, is more like a way of being. Love your life. Love your body. Love your scars. Love your standards. Love your voice, even when it shakes, because that energy is rare. And when a woman walks in that truth, the right man doesn't just notice, he remembers. And if no one else told you this today, let me say it loud and clear. You are not too much. You are not too late. You are exactly right now. So here we are. If you've made it this far, take a moment and really let this sink in. You don't need to be younger. You don't need to be more agreeable, more easygoing, or more silent. You don't need to pretend that what you want is too much. What you need is to come home to yourself. Because the woman you are today, she's not a second choice. She's not a backup plan. She's the version of you that's been shaped by life, by love, by loss, by growth. And that version, she's not invisible. She's magnetic. So let's recap what we've uncovered together. You attract not by chasing, but by inviting someone into a life that's already full. You flirt not to perform, but to connect from a place of play and ease. You speak not to impress, but to express your truth with clarity and calm. You hold standards not to be difficult, but to honor your peace and your worth. And you become unforgettable, not by being perfect, but by being grounded in who you are. Let that be your new compass, not games, not fear, not shrinking, but presence, power, and peace. Now I want to hear from you. In the comments below, tell me, which one of these behaviors do you already practice? And which one are you ready to lean into more? Your story, your insight? It might just be what another woman needs to hear today. And if this video resonated with you, if it reminded you of your value, if it made you sit a little taller, breathe a little deeper, smile a little more, I invite you to subscribe. Not just because it helps this channel grow, but because this space, it's for you, a place where we don't chase youth. We honor wisdom, a place where confidence isn't loud, it's rooted, a place where love isn't a goal, it's a reflection of how we show up for ourselves. So until next time, remember this. You don't have to try harder to be seen. You just have to be more you, and that's more than enough. That's